quiet your mind. Ever since the Earth has circled the Sun, there have been fantastic tales of wonder and mystery that the fate of heart dare not discuss. But three brave, uninformed souls have the brass to tackle every extraordinary happenstance, from the modern age to the dawn of Mantis.
Welcome once again to Dawn of Mantis podcast. Ivan, Joe, Sam over here, ready for another fantastic episode from Redbeard Sound Studio. How are you fellas today?
Doing good.
Great. Excelente. So, Joe, do you got another mystery, or is it a solved, or do you not want to say that right now? I mean, because usually when we walk away from these, you know, we have our ideas of what we think's gonna of what happened, but every once in a while you throw us out a solved one.
This one is unsolved.
Okay, unsolved.
It's technically it's officially unsolved, but it's one of those that I'd venture to guess at the end of this, everybody's going to be like, "Oh, that one guy did it."
So it's kind of in the middle of what I asked. You know, it's like they don't have enough, but you know, everyone knows.
I've never been more sure that a guy did it that wasn't arrested.
Well, that's better. Sam, don't you think that's better than, you know, we have no idea. Here's 5 suspects, nothing good to tie to any of them.
They're both frustrating, just in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. We'll probably be mad by the end. What am I saying?
I'm sure you will, yeah. I'm sure you will.
So anything to talk about before? What about our little field trip we went on?
Yeah, so Ivan and I just a couple days ago traveled over to Yellville, Arkansas, and we met up with Mr. Steve Carpenter because he did the book signing. It was episode 231, the murder of Sidney Pavat, the Arkansas State Trooper. He had a book signing over there in Yellville because the murder took place just right outside of Yellville. So we met up with him over there and about, 60 other people or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a great turnout.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really interested in the local history, and some of them weren't even really that local, so it was really impressive that they came out. You know, I was going to text Steven because I just had this thought, you know, it's something I don't think we really talked about when he was here. Wasn't it a kind of a good indicator that Pavat would have been probably a fantastic officer, because he basically solved that? I mean, he went to where, I mean, obviously, you know, it turned out very bad, but I mean, it doesn't seem like there was a ton of evidence, but he kind of put it together. I know him and some other people, and they went out to check on it. So, I mean, early in his career, if they could have made their arrest, it seems like he would have had probably a long career, and he probably would have been a fantastic officer just based on that, because that whole case was getting wrapped up right there, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the first, if not the first, assignment that Pavat had been turned loose on.
Exactly.
And he had it wrapped up like that.
Yeah, it was really just a short period of time. So it's just like one of those things, it's, you know, it just kind of occurred to me during the presentation that, wow, he was already, you know, quite efficient and a great officer. And it's just, you know, it's kind of bittersweet to have that realization, because everyone knows what happens, but
it's just too bad. It's too bad the first perp that he tracked down just had to be a real shit biscuit.
Yeah, exactly.
And just shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, later on he would have been more seasoned and maybe not have made that mistake. And plus the guys with him weren't armed. Of course, we did talk about in the podcast, like that's not something they do now.
Right.
You know, they approach it way more safely. So it's unfortunate, but that's just a thought I had.
It's a good thought. It never even occurred to me. But yeah, he had that first one wrapped up pretty much the first or second day he was let loose on it.
Anyway, go to our Instagram, check out our reels. Well, Joe made those. So we had a great day, and Joe made a couple reels so you can kind of see some of the places. One of those buildings, the building that Officer Pavat was taken to, we found in Harrison. And we found the place that he died, sadly, 5 minutes after arriving there. And it was like I've said before, and you know better than I, Joe, that it was just so weird to have this feeling like this is a really special place.
Yeah, and the way we found it, driving into Harrison, I whipped out my phone to look for it because we kind of knew what the building was called, and Ivan was like, let's just find it by our instincts. And so I didn't say anything, and so...
It only took us 6 hours. No.
More like 6 minutes. Ivan's like, well, let's find the historic district. There it is. So he went, and he just made some random turns, and we just parked in this parking lot, and we sat there for a minute, and Ivan's like, okay, look on your phone. Let's look it up, and let's see. So I put it in my phone, and the little voice is like, turn left and drive 300 feet. And I was like, wow, dude. Yeah. You got us so close.
As soon as it was saying that, I saw the roof line. As soon as it said that, I was like, oh, I see the roof line.
We just looked slightly left. And we were like, oh, yeah, there it is.
I was going to say, I'm surprised it just didn't pull up like the little dotted map, like
it actually
the
did.
Walking path instead of
It had that on there too.
Yeah.
It had the dotted. Yeah, it was cool. So you could do both ways. But we went to a building called Seville, but it was spelled differently.
Yeah.
They have two buildings called Seville. One's with S-A and the other was S-E.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Like, the other one, the one we went to was way fancier than it should have been. I knew that it probably was wrong.
Yeah, it was like Hotel Seville or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then we're like, yes. And then we got to looking at it and it was like, no, this isn't shaped right. And what are the odds there'd be two buildings that are Seville in a small town like that? But yeah, and they're only 300 feet from each other.
It was really neat to, we stood there and we're like, he probably was carried in the side entrance. That was probably the emergency. It's just, we don't know, but it was just really cool to be in that. So you can visit our Instagram and you can, have a little part of that if you'd like. It was really cool. They're not long reels, 30 seconds to a minute long a piece. So check them out.
We had a blast. Everybody in town was nice. Of course, it's Arkansas. It's the South. Everybody's nice. Folks are just nice. They wave at you. They say howdy. The ladies call you hun when you take. They take your order. So it was cool. It was a good time.
We had way more trouble finding the Goodwill because we wanted to do some thrifting. Yeah. So we found that. We did Google that. All right. What do you got for us tonight?
Another Arkansas case. Let's keep it in the family.
Let's do it.
No inbred jokes intended.
I know. I was going to say, what are we doing?
I'm from here and I think they're funny, but whatever. Yeah. So this is another Arkansas case, Hot Springs to be exact. And I normally don't open with, I've critiqued this before, a podcast that will just spend the first 10 minutes on like the town that the place that the case took place in. And usually when they do that, I'm like, well, that's filler. I think if someone does that, Dallas was founded in 18, blah, 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 blah. Normally I say someone does that just because they don't have enough and they're fluffing it. But Hot Springs is kind of a cool place. I don't spend that much time, but I'm like, I do at least for people that have no idea, that are not from around here. I'm going to give them just a little summation of kind of the town and where this took place.
I think so, just because it's so cool.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not just, and maybe I'm just a big fat hypocrite for doing this after giving other people shit for it. But
I think if the town's cool, you're allowed to do it.
Good deal. Okay. That's our rule. Hot Springs is a picturesque resort town of about 35,000 nestled in the beautiful Ouachita Mountains in central Arkansas. And it's not Ouachita. I've seen YouTube videos and stuff in the region, and it's always Ouachita. Of course, I'm just impressed with myself that I get to name something correctly, pronounce it correctly for once instead of...
Yeah, no, you did a fantastic job.
It's just an hour west of our capital city of Little Rock and is named quite literally for the many natural hot springs that exist in the area.
I'd say it's a little past Little Rock this way.
Oh,
no, I'm sorry.
Reba McEntire.
No,
that was the dude. Who was that?
No, that's you made me forget. Leanne Womack.
Oh yeah, Leanne Womack.
It's just one of my favorite songs. Sorry, I had to. It's one of my favorite songs.
That video is one long Jeep commercial. I'm just saying that. Have you ever seen the music video?
Long time ago.
Look up Leanne Womack, Little Past Little Rock. The director was like, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. For the entire 4 minutes of this song, it's just going to be her driving a Jeep at different angles, like down a highway. That's all it is. It's so redundant by the end of the video, but Leanne Womack's in it and she's hot as hell. So
you were thinking of Colin Ray, Little Rock.
You're right.
Yeah,
I don't know why I said Reba McEntire.
Song also.
Too.
Reba also had a song called Little Rock.
Oh yeah.
Not about the town though.
It was a ring.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I didn't even think about it.
Every damn buddy has a song about Little Rock.
They do.
Didn't realize.
They do. That is funny.
So Hot Springs became famous in the mid-1800s for its many resorts and bathhouses, and also gained a fair amount of infamy through the 30s and 40s as a mecca for illegal gambling and speakeasies and a favorite hideout for gangsters like Bugs Moran, Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, and Al Capone, to name a few. Capone has the Ohio Club. Is that his bar down there?
I think so.
Yeah.
If you go to the convention center, there's all kinds of pictures of gangsters just in broad daylight. Hey, we're here. I guess they didn't try to get them there.
I guess not. It's so remote down there.
Yeah.
They could just kind of do whatever. But the Ohio Club is still there. It is. Yeah. I ate there once.
Okay,
so, yeah,
cool.
It's definitely
I didn't know
there.
that. That's awesome.
Gangsters enjoyed the secluded setting, many casinos, free-flowing liquor, and dozens of brothels the city had to offer, as well as horse racing and the legendary Oak Lawn Track.
Mm-hmm.
The town would even be the home of President Bill Clinton for a time. It seems like a lot of Hot Springs history is pretty dark, and the town is certainly no stranger to scandal, but the story we're covering tonight deviates a bit from Hot Springs' general shadiness of gambling, gangsters, and horny presidents.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Who are you talking about? This was a small town scandal involving an affair, a married cop, and a pregnant missing woman, a murder, and a level of corruption that ran deeper than anyone would have guessed.
So wait,
good intro.
Are we talking about murder or Bill Clinton's life?
One and the same, baby.
That's right.
Oh,
they are the same. They are.
Tonight, we are talking about the unsolved murder of Linda Edwards.
Okay.
Linda Louise Ockert was born in Hot Springs on October 16th, 1946, and she graduated from Hot Springs High School in 1965. She married an Army veteran named Ray Edwards just a few years later on January 22nd, 1969, in the Oak Lawn Methodist Church. The couple would go on to have 3 kids, Sonny, Toby, and Kim, but in 1973, Linda and Ray divorced. Over the next couple of years, Linda struggled to provide for her children. She tended bars at several night spots around Hot Springs, but mainly at a club called the Black Orchid. At the same time, she was taking classes at Garland Community College, and the hectic schedule made it extremely difficult to maintain a home for her children. Then in March of '76, Linda applied for a job at the Garland County Sheriff's Department. She was hired as a deputy dispatcher and given the badge number 137. This was definitely a steadier gig than bartending had been, but money was still incredibly tight. In the months preceding her disappearance, Linda's financial situation worsened. She lost the house she'd been living in for 2 years and even was forced to temporarily place her children in foster care until she could get on her feet. She also made the painful decision to give her oldest son up for adoption. He had been born with Down syndrome, and she felt she couldn't give him adequate care and chose a family she felt was much better equipped to raise him. As if her circumstances weren't stressful enough, Linda was embroiled in another tumultuous situation. For the last few years, she had been having an on-again, off-again affair with a married man.
Uh-oh.
It's scandalous. His name was Thurman Abernathy, and he was chief narcotics officer at the Hot Springs Police Department. Chief narcotics officer in the mid-'70s.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Might have been busy.
I'm going to bring that up later. They'd begun their relationship back when Linda was tending bar at the Black Orchid, but had called it off at some point. From what I can tell, they resumed their relationship sometime in early '76. That's when a new complication had occurred. In May of 1976, Linda discovered she was pregnant.
Uh-oh.
Linda was excited. Abernathy was not. At all.
Yeah.
By all accounts, their relationship had been volatile anyway, but the introduction of a baby seemed to ramp things up quite a bit. From what I can tell, it was pretty much the same cliche story that has happened countless times before and since. Woman and married man begin affair. Man promises he's going to leave his wife. Woman believes him. Man's up having no intentions of doing so, right?
Yep.
As far as the man is concerned, there's pretty much 2 possibilities. Either he never intended on ending up with his mistress, that is, or he did initially intend on it, but he had a change of heart along the way.
Yeah.
That's got to be the only 2 possibilities that I can think of.
Yeah, and it'd be impossible to determine when at this point, but at some point, unless, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt to say that he ever intended on,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to say.
Yeah, there's no way to know at this point. I'm not even going to guess. But based on what he does later, maybe he never had any intentions. Or
Okay.
what I think he does.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you.
Whatever the case, Linda was absolutely determined Abernathy was going to end up with her and raise their child together as a family. But it seems like Abernathy was equally as determined to make Linda get an abortion and keep their affair a secret. Linda scheduled an appointment to have her baby aborted a few times, actually, but backed out each time. And every time she did, Abernathy only got angrier. Linda wrote her friend Kathy in early June of 1976, just a month before her death. In the letter, she talked at length about her life, her pregnancy, and the roller coaster ride of a relationship with Abernathy. So he was not a solid dude, whether or not he killed her. Aside, this letter, I'm not going to read, it's really long. I'm going to try to get through just this middle part. This is kind of a window into what their relationship was like.
Okay.
It's a real bummer because he's just a real jerk.
Okay. So a letter from who to who?
This is a letter from Linda to her friend Kathy.
Okay.
And it's about the whole situation. And she's so positive, and it's really, like I said, it makes you feel bad for her, but she's making excuses for him and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But
I already do, and you haven't read it yet.
this is the middle part here.
Okay.
Emotionally, I'm fine now, but for about a month there, I didn't think I'd make it. By the time Thurman came back to work from school, I was near frantic and expressed the same on the phone when I told him we had a problem. You guessed it, he walked in the door mad before he even knew for sure. The minute he sat down, I jumped on his lap and tried to humor him. Of course, there was no way. I had run a million different things through my mind in the 2 weeks before trying to prepare myself for what his reaction would be. This is when she's trying to decide how to tell him that she's pregnant.
It's so, sorry to break up
No.
there.
Go ahead.
It's so vile.
It's
that
gross.
an act they did together. It's almost like it's her that has to, tiptoe around him. Like, obviously, I'm two to tango thing. I mean, I'm not breaking any new ground here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to air my frustration because I could kind of sense where you're going. Like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to tell him. Like, it's almost like I broke his favorite coffee mug. It drives me crazy.
And the guy is like, what? We had unprotected sex 34 times and you're pregnant?
Yeah.
It's like,
how could you do this to me?
The girl should be like, you did it to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Anyway, continue on. Man, I hate this guy.
She said, I tried to prepare myself for whatever his reaction would be. Guess I covered them all except for him walking through the door already mad. Immediately, fear gripped me. And she has a lot of parentheses stuff that has other stuff I'm trying to skip. And I left his lap and informed him I was too scared to tell him. This made him even more mad. I finally decided he'd kill me for sure if I didn't tell him. That's a weird sentence.
Oh,
And yeah,
wow.
I know it's a euphemism, but considering what happened to her. And the only defense I had was if when I told him, he'd go into shock. Yep, he did. He was really upset. He was against an abortion, against me having the baby. That's how it's written. He was against an abortion, against me having the baby anyway. He couldn't stand the thought of him not raising his baby. I don't know why. It's kind of contradictory because she writes that, but then also talks about how he pressures her into having an abortion. Maybe she's trying to be positive about it or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
That night wasn't too bad. I had realized before he'd be upset as I was fairly flexible, but a few nights later, we really had it out. He threw his hands up. I really thought that night I'd had it. He swung me around the kitchen several times. Like you do, right? Jeez, I'm joking, people.
Here's a guy that, obviously he's on his second relationship and he's not even nice to her. No telling what he is in his first relationship.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway.
Yeah. Of course, I was strictly unreasonable with him that night, and he was furious with me, so she's putting it on herself. Right, so he flung me around the kitchen, but I was unreasonable with him,
I wish I could fling him around the kitchen.
He finally decided he wanted me to get an abortion. This was the only way. I made an appointment, but when I did, then I got so mad at him, I don't think anything could have stopped me. I called him and told him I wanted to see him. He refused. I told him if he was too afraid to come to me at my house, I was not afraid to come up there to the station. Naturally, he came and was very sweet. Oh, it went on like this for several weeks. He finally gave me an ultimatum. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid I'd lose my job, afraid for the trouble he'd go through, not to mention his family, if it got to the wrong person. I finally decided it was my feelings against a whole bunch of other people's feelings, and I decided I would handle my own feelings better than all the others could theirs. So I got a third appointment, third time now, for an abortion. I took off work, got the money. Carol took me to Arkadelphia to have the abortion. I got to the door, and all of a sudden, nothing in the world mattered but how I felt. I never even went inside. That was something I'd never believed in. I felt like I was taking an innocent life. Come what may, I couldn't do it. I came back to Hot Springs prepared to lose job, friends, and even Thurman, but I was going to have my baby. I called him and knew he'd thought I'd went, as he told me he had checked on me every day at work to see if I was okay. So poor Daddy had another shock. He was very mad, scared, and upset, and I knew the things he said came from these negative feelings, so I didn't get upset. Again, making excuses. No, I'm not blaming her. I'm saying it's sad.
No, I know you are.
Seeing,
I know exactly I know where you're coming from. You're like, she's taking the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Like it's, her fault solely, and she doesn't want to inconvenience the jerk.
Yeah.
It's just sad that's like, baked into that relationship.
Yeah. And then not only does she have to contend with becoming pregnant, and that's a huge deal of going through that, but she's got to codify this shit biscuit the whole time, and be careful of his feelings. And, she's got to take care of him as well.
Yeah.
This, of course, I understand this is a weird situation because he's married.
Sure.
And that's a whole different dynamic. I get that. This was 1 week ago. You wouldn't believe all the things I've gotten from God about Thurman and about me and about the two of us. Anyway, I think I'm going to skip the rest of that because it's a lot of just more in the same. And like I said, I'm not victim blaming. I am just saying it's sad that she was put in that position. And she's super positive. I read some other notes and letters from her. And even she lost her house and some different things. And she was one of those, like, it's always darkest before the dawn, folks.
Yeah.
I'll read that part. I lost my house about the same time as all this other, which made me very strong. I don't feel bad about the house. I had 2 beautiful years there, enjoyed it very much. It was never really mine anyway. I feel relieved not to have to worry about it anymore. I stored all my furniture and have been staying with Sarah for the time being. She's helping me organize my financial world, teaching me how to pay bills. I'm doing pretty good too. I can see a dent in them. Anyway, yeah. She was just like finding the positive spin throughout all that.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing.
So this letter is a tragic testament to the awful situation Linda was in and displays just how strong and optimistic she was, if also maybe not, she was fairly naive as well. She makes excuses for Abernathy's oafish behavior and violence towards her by claiming it was his fears and stress that she was putting on him. It's really sad.
It's his fears. The reason why he beats me.
Yeah.
He's afraid.
Yeah. So this was the state of Linda Edwards' life in the summer of 1976. As difficult as it was, she remained positive and felt her situation would only get better in the coming months. Thurman would eventually come around and accept the baby, she thought. She'd be on top of her financial situation again soon. She'd get her own place again. Everything was going to be okay. But, of course, she couldn't have been more. Cue the Bill Curtis. She couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about it, so that's not good.
That's anyone that listens to us regularly. So, hope I don't ever end up on.
That's exactly.
In tonight's episode, everything turned out okay for little Timmy Brushwick. Nope. If you're on here, you are screwed.
If you're on the couches, you're okay. But if you're in the notes, not
screwed.
Good.
Yeah.
Not good.
The more Linda's pregnancy progressed, the more her relationship with Abernathy deteriorated. The few who were aware of the situation feared it was coming to a head and were worried about what would happen when the baby was actually born. Later, Linda's son, Toby, who was 6 years old at the time, would go on to work in law enforcement himself and investigate his own mother's murder. And he remembers the last time he saw his mom and Abernathy talk. He was with Linda in the car, and they pulled along Abernathy in his police car. Abernathy and Linda began to argue, and he pointed his spotlight at Toby to distract him. Finally, Linda said they couldn't talk anymore, and they drove away. And this was just like 2 days before she disappeared. Because she disappears first for a while, a good while, before anyone knows that there was a murder.
Those lights are bright, you
Yeah.
prick.
Yeah.
It's for shining at a 6-year-old to distract him.
Yeah.
What is he, a bullfrog? Come on. It's just, man.
This Abernathy guy reminds me of Rob Lowe's character in Tommy Boy.
Very much so.
I think he was that guy.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what? And if by some weird chain of events, this guy is not guilty of this, and he's just the unluckiest guy in the world because every ounce of evidence points towards him. If he's not guilty, God forgive us.
Well,
But I'm telling you.
maybe you shouldn't throw women around and do everything that she said he did in that letter. And then maybe you wouldn't be a suspect.
Yeah.
And whenever someone goes missing. I don't know. It's a crazy idea. But it could work.
It could work. Yeah, true.
Mhm.
On Saturday, August 21st, 1976, Linda worked the day shift at her dispatch job at the Garland County Sheriff's Office. At some point that day, she saw an article in the paper congratulating Officer Thurman Abernathy on his promotion. This pissed her off royally, and she complained to several friends that day. Once later said, she knew he would be making more money and he still wouldn't help her. This is when she started getting mad. She was determined mad, not shaking mad, but flat mad. She told me that's what she was going to do. She was going to get a divorce. Hold on. She said he was going to get a divorce and marry her and give her baby his last name, or she was going to see a lawyer on Monday and have her last name changed to Abernathy.
Oh, I wish she wouldn't have had either of those thoughts. I don't like either one of them.
Yeah, and she told Abernathy that too.
Oh, no.
The woman continued, I told Linda to be careful. With what you're going to lay on him, he might hurt you. That's what she said. The friend ended by saying, even with their arguments, she trusted him implicitly. Implicitly, he was like a god to her. He never once even told her he loved her.
I mean, it's just a bad idea to try to force somebody to marry you,
So
obviously.
I'm thinking this Abernathy guy, not a great guy. And so he's got this side chick that he's had off and on, which, you know, is Linda. Not to just reduce her to that, but I'm talking about in his mentality.
Sure. If not more. But yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden, whoops, she's pregnant. So that puts a whole new dynamic on this whole thing. It seems to me like he never, ever had intentions of leaving his wife, and he never, ever wanted his wife to find out about this affair. And so now all of a sudden, this woman is pregnant with your baby. So he's obviously pressuring her severely to try to get an abortion. Think of it from his, so she's went down 2 or 3 times to get one. And each time he's just like pacing by the phone. You better have got it. You better have got it. And she calls, I couldn't go through with it. So he's just like, right. And so not only does she not get the abortion where he can be like, oh God, that was a close one. She's ramping it up in the opposite direction, meeting him and saying, you will divorce your wife. You are going to be with me. Oh, fine. If you don't, I'll go change my last name to Abernathy. You know, where he's just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've got to do something about this woman.
Yeah. Chances are he's probably like, you know, I don't care whatever you are or whatever you're not, but chances are he's probably anti-abortion publicly.
Oh, probably
because of the region, you know,
Yeah.
most people are, which is fine or not or whatever. I don't care. But in that case, he's like, yeah, get one.
Right.
I'm just guessing.
Because it
I
benefits
totally
me.
be wrong. Yes.
Well, it would just be, you know, he's a hypocrite would be the
Sure.
lightest of his infractions or whatever.
Yeah, true.
No, I'm saying like, of course he's a hypocrite.
That is a great point, though. I mean, yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, and I'm looking at it through his eyes.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Where he's all furious and he just at this point, I think he just wants her to go away. He just wants the baby to not be in the equation and he wants her to go away. I'm trying to set it up to where this is why I believe that he did away with
Sure.
her.
No, yeah. Yeah. It's all like part of the package of the,
Yeah.
Yeah. I got you.
Well, these days there's someone out there just waiting to be like, they're victim blaming and they're siding with that or whatever. Someone waiting to get upset at you.
They can if they want. I don't care.
Okay. As with most cases as old as this one, there are multiple versions of certain events in this story, and this case is no exception. I found 2 versions of the last time Linda's children saw her before she disappeared. In the first, she came home from work on the evening of the 21st, and after eating dinner with the kids, she told them that they were all going to go see a movie together that night while she took care of a few things. What I just said was contradictory. She was going to send them to a movie while she went and took care of a few things.
I could see that. That was a way more. I remember doing that when I was little, just getting dropped off with my older sister.
Yeah.
And they'd pick us up later at the mall or at the movies
Yeah.
or Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, and hers
Or,
was,
Showbiz. Yeah.
hers was even going to be with a friend of hers,
Oh,
too.
okay. See? So, yeah.
Yeah. So, they'd be staying with they had been staying with Linda's friend, Mary Patterson. So remember, Linda had lost her house.
Mhm.
In the letter, she'd been staying with a woman named Sarah. Since then, she had moved in with a friend named Mary Patterson. So it's her and her 2 kids. So Mary and the 2 young children were going to be watching the movie while Linda went and
Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
Linda drove them to the Paramount Theater in her 72 Chevy Impala and handed Mary $15. She told Mary that the money was for tickets, popcorn, and a cab just in case she wasn't back in time to pick them up.
That would buy 1 ticket today.
Yeah, I know. It's so sad.
Maybe.
Inflation!
If it was an IMAX.
Yeah.
I think they're 20, aren't they, Sam?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. Yeah.
$15 would buy 1 box of Mike and Ike's.
Maybe.
Maybe.
The small one.
Linda told Mary she was going to meet up with Abernathy, then drove away, and they never saw her again. That's the first version.
Wow. That's chilling that's what she said.
Yeah. So I'm torn because that's the version that true crime writer Mara Leverett, the author of the West Memphis 3 book, The Devil's Knot,
Okay.
that's the one that she described. She wrote an article on the case, and that's how Mara Leverett wrote it. And she's phenomenal. I've met her.
Okay.
Yeah, way back in 2003 or whenever it was when The Devil's Knot came out, Mara Leverett did a Q&A and a book signing at Barnes & Noble in Fayetteville.
Oh, wow.
So I drove over there by myself and sat through the Q&A and talked to her and got my book signed. And then I loaned it to some shithead friend of mine and I never saw it again.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you. It wasn't me. No. And
It's one of my prized possessions.
or was it? It's in a glass case in your house.
To Joe, and I like scribbled that out. Ivan.
So, and I love her and she's great. So, and that's the way she put it. But the second version is that the family stayed home that night and Linda told the kids she had to run out and do an errand, but she'd be back soon. Of course, she never came back. I saw several examples of each of these 2 versions in articles and old news clips. But I'm also, I gotta, as much as I love Mara Leverett, I gotta lean towards the second one because
Okay.
that's how her son Toby remembers it.
Okay.
And he was 6, which is still young, but he swears that he remembers it like it was yesterday.
I would think at 6 years old, the last memory of your mother would be pretty much bookmarked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I don't think Mara Leverett lied. I just think, I don't know how that came about.
Hers can't be as firsthand as his.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if she got bad information. I have no idea. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Anyway. And I just didn't want to leave one out because you know me, if I got to get both of them in there and I guess y'all can decide for yourselves what you think. But Linda did make contact with someone else before she met Abernathy that night. A friend came forward to say that Linda had stopped by her house around 11 o'clock that night, obviously right before she disappeared. She was angry and frustrated and was ranting about how she was going to go see Abernathy and pressure him to step up and help her financially and take care of the baby. She said she would even drive straight to his house and confront him in front of his wife if she had to.
Wow.
So if that was a threat, she also levied on him that night. Again, I'm trying to set it up.
Get yourself hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, hindsight's 20/20.
And she, rightfully so, I don't know. No one probably ever thinks this guy's about to kill me, or they wouldn't probably even be with him. I mean, she was aware that he could get violent, But I just, obviously, this is stating the obvious, I don't think she ever saw him killing her or even hurting her badly. I don't think she saw that.
It's just the whole thing about, getting bit by a snake or attacked by a bear. I mean, you back something into a corner. And I mean, by going to his house, confronting him and his wife's there, I mean, that's just the equivalent of that to me.
Yeah.
And that's just a straight guess. I don't know if this guy did it or not, but I don't know. It just seems very plausible.
Yeah. Well, we're just getting started. I'm going to have you guys so convinced by the end of this. Or maybe not, but I bet so. So Mary thought it strange when Linda didn't come home that night. But Linda was an adult. Maybe she'd stayed somewhere. Maybe her and Abernathy got a hotel room or something. But by late the next morning, there was still no sign of Linda. Mary called a mutual friend of theirs, Sarah Edwards, no relation, and I think that's the friend Sarah that she was staying with before, and asked what they should do. Sarah immediately called Garland County Sheriff Leon Barlow to report Linda missing.
Okay.
Suspicion immediately fell on her married lover, Thurman Abernathy. She'd told several people, even Sheriff Barlow, about the affair and the pregnancy. Abernathy didn't do himself any favors. From the get-go, he was not very cooperative. He even refused the preliminary step of signing a form stating he had been advised of his rights.
Okay.
So that's really not cooperating at all.
Yeah.
If you don't even sign I've never even heard of that. The more Abernathy was questioned, the more suspicious he looked. After extensive questioning, he did admit that he had met up with Linda that night. Phone records showed that she had called him at 8:35 p.m. He said that after the two had briefly met up at a gas station before moving to a parking lot behind the Baptist Church on Central across from Oak Lawn Park. He said he only spoke with Linda for about 10 to 15 minutes. When asked what their conversation entailed, he said it was pretty generic. They talked about his job and recent promotion and other general topics. Bullshit.
I don't think so.
He claimed the subject of their unborn child or their relationship didn't come up.
It probably wouldn't.
And Linda looked like she was, quote, doing fine when he drove away. So
she was alive when I left her.
Yeah. Oh, no, none of that stuff ever came up. The stuff that she'd been ranting about for days,
Sure.
telling her friends, I'm going to go meet him right now and we're getting this shit straightened out. And then when you talk to him, she pretty much talked about the weather.
Yeah.
And she planted some stuff in her garden. I think she brought that up.
As she drove away, I just thought, I forgot to ask about the baby. We didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, what about that baby? What's that baby do?
Yeah. But it was too late then, so I don't know. He ended by saying that was the last time he saw her, he claimed. However, another report made later notes that when asked if Linda had pressured him to leave his wife and marry her when they had met that night, he answered, no more than usual. So he changed the story later.
Okay.
And when asked for more details about that conversation, Abernathy refused. Just 2 days after she went missing, Linda's Chevy Impala was found abandoned on a dirt road off Highway 290 near Carpenter Dam Road. It was locked and showed no signs of a struggle. For Linda's friends and family, things were looking more sinister. Why would Linda abandon her beloved Impala on a country road outside town? Also, a check of Linda's bank account revealed that no activity had taken place since the day of her appearance. Hopes that she would be found alive and unharmed began to dwindle at this point.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's look at Abernathy's activity.
Yeah, let's do it.
The night Linda Edwards disappeared, Abernathy's activity only made him look more suspicious. After meeting with her, he tracked down the patrolling officer on duty that night and sent him home 3 hours early. The time between that officer going home early and the time Abernathy checked off duty was 2 hours and 13 minutes.
I wonder if that was a common thing to do.
Send someone home early?
Yeah.
If they were not busy? It could have been. In his defense, it could have been pretty common if stuff was, But on this night, right after Linda and him met, he sends this guy home early. And that was the only other guy. So that makes 2 hours and 13 minutes that Abernathy's actions cannot be accounted for.
Wow.
So it is convenient.
Very.
When asked to account for those whereabouts during those 2 hours, he pleaded the fifth. Just like with the last case with Pauline Stormont, when they asked the kid that
Yeah.
Dude, make something up. Just be like, oh, I just cruised around town. To me, and I know a lawyer would tell you that's the smart thing to do if you don't know.
Especially if you're guilty.
Especially if you're guilty, just plead the fifth. Or just, I invoke my right to plead the fifth. I invoke my right to remain silent. But through my eyes, that's the minute where I'm like, wow, well, this guy just got a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
If someone said, if someone died in town tonight and someone came up to me the next day and said, hey, Joey, did you kill Frank? And if I didn't, I would say, no. I wouldn't say, I plead the fifth. Here's my attorney's phone number, which is what happened in the last episode. I don't know.
Unless he was having another affair. That's the only thing that would save the guy.
Yeah, he proves these. No, I was with Julie, see? There I go to the Bronx again, even though we're in Arkansas. Julie can tell you, but don't tell my wife. Yeah.
Exactly.
But by the way, if I had murdered Frank, I would say no, even if I had murdered. But I wouldn't plead the fifth. That's my point. Even then, I would lie. I would say, no, I didn't kill Frank. I didn't kill Frank Johnson. We didn't say his last name was Johnson. That's a common last name. Shit. I would still say no matter what. Lie. Come up with something. Don't ever plead the fifth. That's legal advice from Dawn of Mantis. Even if you did something, if you're guilty of sin, don't plead the fifth. Lie.
I think it'd be better. I mean, it's the same thing, but I think it'd be better to be like, I'm the last one to see her alive. I don't want to talk until I have a lawyer. I guess that's the same thing, though. It's the same exact thing.
Just lie.
But you could preface it with that. It's like, I know it doesn't look good for me because I'm the last person to see her live, I think. So I want to not talk.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he said. I don't know.
He just played the fifth. Yeah. Oh, that's the least of. Let's continue because.
Let's go.
As if he couldn't look any shadier, Abernathy refused to take a polygraph under any conditions, no matter what questions were asked. Abernathy did something else that night that deviated from his usual schedule. Instead of leaving his cruiser at the PD and driving his personal vehicle home like he always did, he took his police car home for the night. When asked why, he said his personal car had been having issues. Again, could have been true. But I'm just saying, all these things, like here's what normally happens. And you would think like maybe over the course of a couple of weeks, these outliers might happen over.
Sure.
But they all happened on one night.
I took my police car home and detailed it. That's why it's so clean.
He did.
Did he?
He absolutely did.
Oh my goodness. I was just joking.
No, you've been doing this too long. Then came the search of his police cruiser. It was a 1973 Dodge Polara, Unit 128. The only thing the search of the car found was that it had been recently completely cleaned. You called it. Every surface, mirror, seat, dash, door panel, and window had streaks that suggested they'd been wiped with a damp cloth but not dried well. So you might say, well, the guy just kept a tidy cruiser. He ran a tight ship, asshole. Right? Maybe he just kept a clean car.
Right, dude.
Don't be such a judge-a-roo. But it seemed strange to me that when they dusted his car for prints, they found none. They didn't even find his prints.
Usually when I detail my car, that's the thing I'm worried about. I want to get all these fingerprints out of this thing. It ups the resale value.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, who drove this? An alien? The kid print anywhere. Yeah. Wow. Coincidence.
When you detail your car, the last thing you do is you use a white glove to open the door and then a rag to wipe off the prints and and then you shut the door with your elbow or your knee as to not touch it.
I do that.
That's what I
try to be very clean, very clean.
Yep. But there was an element to this case that we haven't covered yet, and that is the stubbornness and lack of cooperation from the Hot Springs Police Department. At the time, we shouldn't visit Hot Springs for a while after this, by the way.
Okay.
Political tensions had severely strained the relationship between the departments, county and city. Despite that, Garland County Sheriff Leon Barlow had assumed they could put their bad blood aside and work together to find his missing deputy. He was wrong. It had taken several days to even interview Abernathy because the Hot Springs PD wouldn't make him available. When they finally allowed him to be interviewed by state police, they refused to let him be taken to police headquarters, which is what normally happened in that case, or something like it.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
And they insisted the questioning take place there in Hot Springs at their PD and that they also have 2 of their uniformed officers present.
Sure. You'd do that for anyone.
Obviously.
Yeah.
The PD seemed almost offended that one of their officers was being considered a suspect, despite the overwhelming evidence that Abernathy was at least involved, if not the perpetrator himself. Linda's brother, Roy, wrote the chairman of the Hot Springs Civil Service Commission, a guy named Sam Stathakis, asking for Abernathy to be suspended from the force based on his lack of cooperation with the investigation into Linda's disappearance. Stathakis didn't seem interested in pursuing a suspension for Abernathy. Even the mayor, Tom Ellsworth, sided with Abernathy and also noted that there was not yet any evidence an actual crime had even been committed, which was a valid point. I mean, she was missing, but evidence of an actual crime had not yet been found. So you got to side, that's a valid point is all I'm saying.
Valid-ish. I mean, you would expect, lead by example. What do you want out of your people when you're solving a crime that doesn't involve a police officer? You want cooperation. And he wasn't doing it, and he's, should be held to the standard that he wants from the public.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, too.
It is, yeah, it is just weird. Anything they needed from him that whole time, he was just like,
No.
No, he wouldn't do it. Stathakis did admit that an officer who refused to cooperate in a criminal investigation would usually be suspended, but ended by saying, but under these circumstances, we can't do anything.
What's special about this one? What is special about it?
Do you know what I think?
What?
This goes back to at the opening of the episode. So Abernathy was chief narcotics officer.
Okay.
I think he was dirty. And I think he had so many people paid off and other people that were dirty. So rumor was, and several officers later on would testify that Abernathy had told a few people, look, if I go down, you're all going down with me.
Wow.
Chief narcotics officer. So I'm just guessing he was dirty and was making some deals. What was it, Serpico or whatever? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong case or the wrong story.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I think he was sticking his fingers in the pies there and had some pull.
Well, it's happened before where, you do a big bust and there's $20,000 laying around and we found $6,000. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but what are the drug dealers going to say?
Right.
Like, are they going to press charges?
Yeah.
We had more money than that. So we want even more of a, offense. I don't know. I don't know though. Well, I don't know why I put my hands up.
Because you're about to be arrested, bitch.
I hope people are being good. I try to be good.
And again, I think this Abernathy guy had kids and a family. I knew everyone has a family, but I think he had kids. If I'm wrong on this, forgive me, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to think with all this stuff that
we can only do with what we have. We can only do the best job with what we have.
I don't know what else to think. Frustrated, Sheriff Barlow even wrote then Arkansas Governor David Pryor expressing his concerns with the investigation. He praised the ASP, that's Arkansas State Police, but assured Governor Pryor that there was, quote, a situation in Hot Springs. He wrote, I am disturbed by the way city officials of Hot Springs and the Civil Service Commission seem to be so very uncooperative and unconcerned about this. They have a very good habit of ignoring things and hoping they will go away. When a police officer is this uncooperative during an investigation and the Civil Service Commission does not have legal grounds to cause to dismiss him from his department, then I am afraid the law enforcement in general is in jeopardy and there's not much justice left. I think that was very adequately put.
Yeah. Hey, I love law enforcement. I have a ton of friends that are in it. A new friend with our author friend. It's like that's what makes me so mad with the bad actors.
Yeah.
Because it's like any profession, you take somebody in your profession and they do something heinous. And that makes me mad because it makes the good ones look like it makes them, it puts them in a weird place,
Yeah.
If anyone's picked up on frustration, I would never say the stupidest 3 words ever, defund the police. That statement is the stupidest thing ever uttered.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying. I'm not one of them, but I'm like, you make it harder on the people that are helping us all.
Yeah.
Because you're being a PAB.
Big jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously most police are good because I can't remember the exact statistics. I'm just going to throw a number out. But on a given day, police officers as a whole, the police officer community in America, they make like, let's just say a number, like 30,000 contacts with the public.
Yeah.
That's arrests, that's police, that's, just traffic stops. It's probably even more than that. But out of all those, you can count on maybe like 1 or 2 hands, the ones that turn violent or there's actual force used. That's incredible.
I agree. Well,
That's incredible
if I
odds.
go to Taco Bell and I might say something stupid to the Taco Bell employee just when I'm ordering, and I might mess up the procedure of ordering. So I don't want to relate that to their job. But what I mean is you have an interaction with people and it can go south or sideways. Not that I get in a fight with the Taco Bell people, but I'm just trying to say your brain's working and it's like, oh, well, they did this and that was illegal for them to say that. But I mean, they're still a human.
Yeah.
They can still mess up. Some people want to act like they have to be flawless. That's not possible.
Yeah.
So just to kind of reiterate what you were saying.
Well, and they got to be so many different things. They have to arrest violent criminals, but they also have to be part counselor because think of all the domestic disputes they get called out. And
sure.
Cheryl told me I could watch MacGyver again tonight. She's over there watching her goddamn little girl again. And they have to step in the middle of that nightmare all the time and talk people down and all this crap.
Wait, are we talking about Taco Bell employees or police officers? I'm confused now.
Both.
Well, I think in that vein, both. Hey, I love MacGyver.
I've been binging MacGyver.
You have?
Yeah.
The old one?
Yeah, it's on Pluto or something.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, probably.
It's probably why it was on the tip of my brain because I've been watching a lot of it.
Oh, man, the song's playing in my head right now.
It is so cheesy, but I still love it.
Oh, yeah.
It is so cheesy. So Abernathy, he continued to work as the chief narcotics officer, and Linda's friends and family continued to distribute flyers, talk to the press, and try to keep her case in the news. So the days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, until about 6 months after Linda's disappearance on February 12th, 1977, when 2 fox hunters were hunting on Jack Mountain in Hot Spring County, about 8 miles from where Linda's car had been found. That's where they discovered a large area of scattered bones. At first, they assumed it was an animal, but then they found some blonde hair and some fingernails and a sweater and some rings and then finally a human skull.
Dang.
Dental records soon proved that the remains were Linda Edwards. 3 things that were not found with her body and have never been found were a blue denim purse that she was carrying the night she disappeared, her ID card, and her Garland County Deputy Sheriff's badge, number 137. The case against Abernathy was now ramping up. A crime had most definitely been committed, murder. There wasn't much left of the body, but the skull showed signs of a crushing blow, a fatal one. Considering the evidence and the fact that he was the only person with any sort of motive, Abernathy was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in July of 1977, 5 months after the discovery of Linda's body and 11 months after her murder. He posted the $50,000 bond and was on the street again immediately. However, the Hot Springs Police Department did finally suspend him. For the next year, both sides settled in and prepared to meet in court, and the family of Linda Edwards felt that justice may finally be served.
They don't have enough.
Yeah.
Based on what you've said.
Yeah.
There's nothing to time directly. The fact that he was the last person.
And
anyway,
that shouldn't be enough.
No.
As much as I hate that he didn't get nailed for this, let's picture, what if you happen to bump into somebody and you hang out with them for a minute and then you go home and that person gets killed or something? I wouldn't want to be,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just that alone. Well, there's other stuff too.
Sure.
But we get it. It's the level of proof that you have to have. And I know it's super frustrating sometimes.
Yeah.
But, well, since Linda's remains had been found in Hot Spring County, Hot Springs is not in Hot Spring County, by the way.
I did not know
It's
that.
in Garland County. It's confusing.
Yeah.
But it was in a different jurisdiction. So they switched it to Hot Spring County from Garland County. This meant that the trial would now take place in Malvern instead of Hot Springs. Abernathy hired a Little Rock attorney named Jack Holt Jr., and Holt immediately set about trying to get whatever evidence the prosecution had rendered inadmissible. In a preliminary motion, he argued that nearly all the evidence the state planned to produce, like the claim that Linda was pregnant with Abernathy's child, and the fact that they'd been arguing and that she'd planned to confront him that night, was all hearsay and therefore could not be presented at trial.
Yeah, I guess there's no proof of that, sadly.
Yeah, like I said, it's frustrating.
Well, wait. Did she not go to the doctor and have some official
I don't know.
medical records?
Surely she did. This didn't bring it up. But then again,
I guess just because she was pregnant doesn't mean it was with
that's
this
what I was
child.
going to say.
Yeah.
Because he could easily say, like, okay, if any woman in Hot Springs is pregnant, it's my baby all of a sudden. So yeah.
It might have been. No.
And in the 70s, there was no DNA. So like, even if they had found a body like the day after, all they could have done was blood type it. They couldn't even have proved it then, really.
Oh, man. Slimy lawyers. Right.
Mm-hmm. Don't you
I
hate
mean,
that?
not every lawyer's slimy.
But this one was, I think. Or just a good lawyer. I don't
He
know.
was a good lawyer. I have to say that.
He was like, isn't that possible?
No, don't do that. Don't go there.
Judge Henry Means agreed. And in August of 78, 2 years after Linda's murder, the charges against Abernathy were dropped. He was paid all the back wages since his suspension, which was $14,664, or over $70,000 in today's puny, overly inflated, shitty currency. However, upon his return, Abernathy was immediately demoted from lieutenant to sergeant. And after this, he was resigned from the force. I think it's the other way around. You get demoted from sergeant to lieutenant. So, right?
Then he resigned?
Then he resigned. He was pissed that he got demoted. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, he could have been demoted just for the fact that he didn't cooperate. I mean, I feel like they obviously can't demote him because we think you're a murderer,
Yeah. We think you did it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did. I don't know. But that maybe that theory I had that he had all this dirt on them, maybe that doesn't hold water, because I wouldn't think that they'd want to piss him off. Like, when they demoted him.
Well, but
he
I
would
wonder at that time, it was a little bit later, but yeah, I don't know.
Of course, he would have to expose himself as well.
Sure.
If he exposed them.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Linda's case was and still is open, but for everyone else, life went on. Ray took Toby, that's the Linda's ex and the kid's father. Ray took Toby and Kim and moved to California. Abernathy got another job and life went on. But as Linda's children grew up, they became more and more curious about their mother, a person they could barely even remember now, and they began to want some answers in her case. They both eventually moved back to Arkansas, and Toby became very active in his mother's case. He created LindaEdwards.com and began pushing for new interest in the case. In 2004, 28 years after her murder, Toby and Kim attempted to get a court order to exhume their mother's remains and see if any DNA testing could be done. They were told that because the investigation was still open, they'd have to get Hot Spring County prosecutor Eddie Easley to file a motion seeking the exhumation. No problem. You would think.
You would think.
Easley's chief deputy, Richard Garrett, told Toby and Kim that he would get right on preparing the necessary documents needed to file for an exhumation. but cautioned that it could take several months. Well, it still hasn't been done. This was in 2004, 19 years ago.
Wow.
A year later, Toby was contacted by a producer for A&E's Cold Case Files TV show, and they offered to pay for Linda's exhumation. Toby readily agreed, but when the network attempted to gain access to any of the files, they were denied. So after this, A&E lost interest, and the exhumation still never happened.
Why wouldn't they want an old case like that old? Wonder why they wouldn't grant that.
I don't know.
I guess it's within their power not to.
Do they never, like if a case is open, do they never release the files no matter how old?
That would be a Stephen Coppinger question.
Yeah, we got to ask him that. We need you, Steve. He would know that immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then in 2007, another new development. After reading an article in the paper on the 30-year anniversary of Linda's death, a former captain of the Garland County Reserve Deputies named Carter McCaslin decided to break his silence and come forward to say he had spoken to Linda just before she went missing. He said, quote, "Once I read this thing about the judge saying that this lady or sister friend who was saying she'd heard Linda say she was going to Abernathy was hearsay, well, what I have to say is not hearsay." McCaslin said he worked with Linda and she'd been telling him about having to stay with a friend of hers. McCaslin said he had a trailer home she could rent. Linda said she was about to get some money and she could give him the deposit the next day. McCaslin said, quote, "It was common knowledge at the sheriff's department that she was having an affair with Abernathy. She made the statement to me that she was pregnant with his kid and was meeting him that night and could have the money for me the next morning." End quote. The following day, he witnessed Linda and Abernathy sitting in the back of a booth of a cafe having a heated conversation. A day later, Linda disappeared. When McCaslin found out Linda was missing, he mentioned what he knew to some other deputies who told him to keep his mouth shut and stay out of it. McCaslin's sworn statement was then sent to Easley, who pledged to, quote, "send it over to the police to follow up and check out information." Nothing ever came of that either, that I could tell.
No, man. Wonder where that went.
Yeah. So it's now August 2023, 47 years since Linda Edwards was murdered and discarded on a remote mountain like a piece of garbage. Her case is still open, but it seems unlikely that justice will ever be served. Thurman Abernathy maintained his innocence for the rest of his life. He died on August 4th, 2021, at the age of 81. No other suspect has ever been named or even had interest in them in this case.
Just over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So there you go, man. So who do you think did it?
Oh man, I don't think there's any gopher holes down there. So actually they found her. Yeah, I
mean, we got
obviously.
such a long list of suspects here.
Obviously.
Yeah. Like I said,
I think it was the Zodiac.
Like I said at the beginning of this, if it wasn't that guy, then he's the unluckiest guy ever. Because all that other stuff just happened to happen the night that some other guy jumped in from the sidelines, killed her, and then was out again.
You know, it's sad. Like if he would have cooperated from day one and like did everything the cops asked him and took the polygraph, of course he might have failed it. But let's say he took it and passed it. We probably wouldn't even be talking about this case.
I doubt. Yeah, you're right. If he was like, "How can I help? You know, how can I help? I'll take a polygraph. Tell me who I need to talk to. Anyone can interview me who wants to. Let's do this. I want to help. I want to find her."
Yeah, exactly. I like solving cases. I'm a police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no other person was even. It's one of those, you see a lot of cold cases like that where there's the one guy that everybody feels like did it, but maybe there's just not enough. And you know that the police probably think he did too because they don't even really work it anymore.
Sure.
Like, I don't even think they're working this case hard, like putting out feelers for new leads and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a combination of there won't be really anything out there, but you never know. I mean, sometimes something crazy happens. The thing you said at the end where the guy said his part wasn't hearsay, sadly, it still was hearsay though. It was just him talking without anything else. I hate to say it. I mean, the guy's heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
But man, it's sad. He gave the file over, check this out, and then it never was forwarded to anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it was, and it was just disregarded. I don't know. Very frustrating for sure. Maybe he didn't do it. I don't know. It's hard to even say that.
I don't know. But it's the same deal. It's like, as far as I know, they're not really out there working leads on Ron Goldman and who was OJ's wife?
Oh,
what was
yeah,
her name
Nicole.
again? Nicole, yeah. Nicole Brown Simpson. That was her. Yeah. It's like, you would think, and he's a free man, so I guess I should be careful, but
you're not the only one.
Don't make me
this.
not kill you too. Yeah, I know everybody's saying it. But like, for him to have not done it, he doesn't seem to have been really out there, on the front lines trying to figure out, now that I've been, named as not guilty, let's find out who did this. He seems like he was quite happy to just move on.
Well, I mean, don't worry about getting murdered by him, because
I know
there's a 45-minute compilation of him doing OJ jokes on YouTube. And I mean, he died of cancer. So it's like, it's like, obviously he's a big teddy bear now. He won't violently stab you.
That's true. So yeah, guys, that's the Linda Edwards case, unsolved. And again,
air quotes unsolved.
Yeah. So
for the people that,
I don't know, man. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and shits like, or however that goes, it's probably a duck. So
yeah, just cooperate.
Don't plead the fifth. Lie. If you take anything from us, lie to the cops. Don't plead the fifth. I think
he probably couldn't think of anything good. I mean, if you just say, "Well, I just drove around," that's never good.
I know. I would just like, oh, I saw a shadowed figure that ran into the woods by the church. Like, you know what? If he was smart, he would have thought ahead, and he could have saw a suspicious person, like in the area of where he last saw Linda or something. He could have set up his own scapegoat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He could have probably threw somebody under the bus that was some drugged out person that we're all saying, be a good guy and do stuff like that. No, it's just further frustrating, because the fifth is just a frustrating thing anyway.
It is.
But chances are maybe somebody that's a good buddy of his or a lawyer told him to say that before it went south, before they ever asked him a question about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all speculation at this point.
Well, we'll just leave you with lie, don't plead the fifth. Thank you for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next week.
Good night.
Let me tell you about some fellas I know, named Ivan, Sam, and Joe. They got themselves a little podcast, And they talk about everything under the sun that they find interesting, spooky, or fun. And they sure ain't trying to impress no one. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Manti. They talk about killers, monsters, and cults, French maids from hell, disappeared folks. Occasionally throw in a few dad jokes. They try to make every story extra nice by adding their own ginger spice. Not one time or two, but thrice. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Manti. Now I'm sure these fellas will be around for quite a spell, 'cause there sure ain't no shortage of stories to tell, 'cause this old world's as weird as hell. But hell, even if nobody listened, they'd maintain a fine disposition, 'cause shooting the breeze is kind of their mission. The remedy to too much time on your hands is take a little listen to the dawn of Manti. much time on your hands is take a little listen to the